the Texas House passes the Child Trauma Prevention Act, HB 567, by Representative James Frank. This is a bill that we have been working on for almost 4 years, legislation that would reform CPS to prevent the traumatization of children by CPS. So that bill passed recently the Texas House with bipartisan support. Only 5 members of the Texas House voted against this bill. So that's a very exciting thing. It moves on now to the Texas Senate. And let me just talk about the 4 major things that this bill does to reform CPS and protect innocent children and families. Number 1, this bill tightens the definition of child neglect. The definition of neglect in the Texas Family Code is so broad that CPS can investigate almost any family with little or no evidence at all. So it tightens that definition to limit those situations where children are traumatized by a simple investigation of the family. Number 2, this bill changes the law and requires that when the courts find that a home for the child is safe, they must be returned instead of being kept in custody of CPS by up to 18 months. So very often a situation in the home results in the removal of that child or investigation, and then the courts find that that child's home is safe, but the CPS continues to keep that child in custody for up to 18 months. This bill changes that. And then also CPS has a practice of a term they call the non-offending parent. So if there's an allegation against one parent but not both parents, an investigation can happen, but these non-offending parents are treated just like a parent who's being accused of an allegation of abuse or neglect. This bill would change that and require that CPS has to have evidence and prove that a quote-unquote non-offending parent is guilty of some violation before they treat them like a parent that has been accused of some allegation of abuse or neglect. And then finally, this bill also requires that CPS change its practice of using all of the allegations in the Family Code that could result in the termination of parental rights, and when they do filings against any parent, regardless of what the allegation of abuse or neglect is. So let me explain. There's about 24 offenses in the Texas Family Code that, if proven, would result in the termination of a parent's fundamental right to keep and raise their child. And what the practice of CPS, for their convenience, is to drop all of those allegations in an accusation or a filing against any parent accused of abuse or neglect. That makes it convenient for CPS because then if they don't have to go back and update those. Of course, the problem is they file these things knowing that they have no evidence to support most of those allegations they are making. And 2 years ago, we tried to change that, and the CPS just said, you know what, that would result in us having impact almost 75% of our cases. So what that says is 75% of the time CPS is filing allegations that they know they don't have any evidence for, and this bill would force CPS to stop that practice. So we are very excited that this legislation has passed the Texas House. It's been well received in the Texas Senate. We're going to continue to work hard to see that bill pass into law to protect innocent children and families of Texas from trauma. So click on the links below for more information. Thank you for doing all that you do to help us keep Texas families free.